From the Pacers trading Kawhi Leonard after drafting him, to the Hawks letting Luka Doncic out of their hands on draft night. These are the NBA teams that quit on players too soon. If you're one of those teams that let the claw let go, it's no surprise you're making this list. I'm talking about you, Indiana. Leaving Kawhi Leonard was possibly one of the worst decisions they could have made. Remember that moment back in 2011 when the Pacers made a trade that still haunts us to this day? Let me break it down for you in a nutshell. But fair warning, it's not pretty. So the Pacers snagged Kawhi Leonard with the 15th overall pick in the draft. But then they went ahead and traded him, along with the 42nd pick to the San Antonio Spurs for George Hill. But wait, it gets even worse. See, as much as the Pacers were drooling over Hill, thinking he was the perfect fit for their point guard needs, they had this nagging feeling that Leonard was something special. They actually had him ranked pretty high on their draft board, like around the 5th or 6th spot. They even considered scrapping the whole Hill deal and just grabbing Leonard, who they never expected to be available at the 15th pick. But they went ahead with the trade, partly because they had concerns about how Leonard would mesh with Paul George, who's now tearing it up with the Clippers, and Danny Granger, who unfortunately had some knee troubles shortly after. Sure, Hill had a decent stint with the Pacers, but Leonard, well, he took off like a rocket and reached superstardom in no time. With his insane handles, he has already gotten 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards and 2 Finals MVP titles. Talk about a missed opportunity, but sometimes it comes later rather than sooner, which was the case with the Los Angeles Lakers when they traded D'Angelo Russell. The Lakers were in a pretty tricky situation. It was like a wild roller coaster ride with all these player additions and subtractions. And let me tell you, they made some big moves. First, they had Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, 2 promising players who unfortunately didn't reach their full potential with the Lakers. But hey, the Lakers traded them both for the incredible Anthony Davis. So you can't really argue with the outcome there. Now let's talk about D'Angelo Russell. Poor guy found himself in a similar situation. The Lakers used him in a trade to get rid of the hefty salary of Timothy Mozgov. Their eyes were all set on the 2018 free agent market, which is when LeBron James swooped in and joined the Lakers. That cap space they freed up turned out to be crucial. But you know what? The Lakers didn't exactly make the best deal with Russell. They never fully trusted him to run the offense, and his stats suffered as a result. But guess what happened after he left? His numbers exploded. He started averaging 21.1 points and 7.0 assists per game in the following seasons. Those are some serious numbers that could have made a big impact if they had just given him more chances. Instead, they ended up using him to sweeten a deal for financial reasons. But even when a team can afford the star, doesn't mean they make smart decisions. The Memphis Grizzlies learned that the hard way after they let Kyle Lowry go. So the Rockets had their eyes on Lowry for quite some time, drooling over his skills. The Grizzlies, on the other hand, thought he wasn't that important to them after they snagged Mike Conley in the 2007 draft. Here's where it gets good. The Rockets swooped in and nabbed Lowry in a trade, and guess what they gave up? Rafer Alston. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies walked away from the deal with Adonal Foyle, Mike Wilkes, and a 2009 first-rounder that they used to pick DeMar Carroll. Foyle showed up for a grand total of 3 minutes before being kicked to the curb. Wilkes never even got to put on the Grizzlies jersey because he was nursing an injury. As for Carroll, well, he eventually proved to be a decent player, but the Grizzlies couldn't wait around for him to find his groove. They shipped him off before he became the star he is today. But Lowry? Oh boy, he's been tearing it up. 6 consecutive All-Star appearances, a key player in the Raptors NBA championship win in 2019, and he's been recognized as an All-NBA third-teamer. Not to mention, he's been crowned the Conference Player of the Week 6 times. If he had stuck around in Memphis and achieved the same success, he'd be sitting on top of the franchise's record books, leading in points, assists, and steals. But even when the team gets the star, keeping him is also a struggle. The Miami Heat couldn't keep Patrick Beverley for long after drafting him. Miami is known for having an impressive player development program. They usually keep their talented finds close. But there's one player who slipped through their fingers, and his name is Patrick Beverley. Now, the Heat had their eyes on him during the 2009 draft, and they traded for him. They brought him to their training camp in 2010, all excited and ready to unleash his skills after his successful stint in Europe. This guy had a reputation for his hustle and defense, And boy, did he catch everyone's attention in South Beach. Miami was going through a championship or bust phase, assembling a super team that would make any opponent tremble. Unfortunately, when it came time to make the final roster cuts, poor Beverly couldn't quite make the cut. He was the one that got away from the Heat's clutches. Fast forward to January 2013, Houston swoops in and picks up our guy, and he hit the ground running. Beverly thrived almost immediately, showing off his skills on the court. It took him less than a month to secure a regular rotation spot, and when the playoffs arrived, he started 5 out of 6 games for the Rockets, playing 33.3 minutes per night. Since then, Beverly has been a starting player for most of his career, and he's racked up a couple of all-defensive honors along the way. The guy knows how to shut down opponents. In fact, in 2020 alone, he's got the 22nd highest raw plus-minus, which is a fancy way of saying he's been making a big difference on the court, with a plus 262 over 1,299 minutes. I mean, you just gotta give the players a chance to show their potential, right? Even if it means spending some major cheddar on them. Sadly, the Oklahoma City Thunder didn't know that at the time they traded James Harden. Back in the day, he was the ultimate scoring machine of his time, like the LeBron James of putting points on the board. But the Thunder, in all their wisdom, traded him away in 2012. This was right after they had just made it to the NBA Finals, mind you. Harden was set to become a restricted free agent the next summer, and the Thunder couldn't agree on the dough. They were haggling over a cool $6 million. That's a lot of cash, no doubt, but come on, we're talking about James Harden here. So the Thunder made their offer, $54 million over 4 seasons. And get this, they only gave him an hour to mull it over before shipping him off to the Houston Rockets. It backfired big time for the Thunder. Harden landed in Houston and immediately made a splash. He became an all-star in his first season there, and he's been dominating ever since. He's on the verge of winning his 3rd consecutive scoring title, and he even snatched an assist title in 2016-17. Meanwhile, the Thunder got a measly return for this future Hall of Famer. They got Jeremy Lamb and Kevin Martin, who didn't exactly light up the NBA. And sure, they got some draft picks that turned into Steven Adams, Alex Abrines, and Mitch McGary. Adams is the only one still sticking around in OKC, and Lamb is the only other dude who's still playing in the league. But the Hawks did secure a star player. Their problem was that they could have chosen better. Why? Because the Hawks let Luka Doncic go. The Atlanta Hawks are sitting there, mulling over their decision on draft night in 2018. They ended up making a trade that brought them an all-star player, which sounds pretty great, right? Well, turns out they can't help but wonder what might have been if they had just kept Luka Doncic instead. Now let's give credit where it's due. The Hawks didn't walk away from that trade empty-handed. They got Trae Young, who's seriously one of the most thrilling young players in the entire league. Plus, Cam Reddish showed some impressive skills on both ends of the court during his rookie season. But let's be real here, they're not Luka. This guy's out there making history, having the best season ever for being one of the youngest in the NBA. And he's already showing off a basketball IQ that's off the charts. Luka has this insane ability to see the entire court. Like he's got some sort of magic basketball vision. And mark my words, he's gonna be a cornerstone player in the league for a long, long time. Sure, Trae Young might make it to the All-Star game every year, which is no small feat. But Doncic? Well, he could be a consistent top 5 contender for the MVP title year after year. It's no easy task to snag a superstar, but Atlanta let one slip away. So there you have it, guys, from the Hawks letting Luka Doncic out of their hands on draft night, to the Pacers trading Kawhi Leonard after drafting him. Those were the NBA teams that quit on players too soon.